This is T1D, and this is going to be my first video. And in this video, I'm going to be giving my feedback and sort of reviewing or talking about my experiences about the Dexcom G7, which is a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM for short, for type 1 diabetics. And first of all, let's get into how to do it, how to apply it, and what it is. So, just the basics of it, kind of. It comes in this small applier. It's kind of different to the Dexcom G6, which was applier with your hand. It was much bigger. This one's kind of smaller because obviously the size of Dexcom G7 is also smaller. And you just press it to your skin and press the button down after rotating it in order to apply it to your skin. And so first, I'm going to get into the size of it. It's much smaller than the Dexcom G7, probably half the thickness, half thinner, and also it's quite a bit less wide as well. So yeah, it's a good amount smaller than the Dexcom G7, but it's also newer. So compared to other new models out there, like the Freestyle Libre or a couple of other CGMs on the market that are new or released at similar dates to the Dexcom G7, it's around the same size. Maybe it's a bit bigger than a couple, like the Dexcom, the Freestyle Libre. It's a bit bigger than that, I think, but very slightly bigger. Both of them are very small, and the Dexcom G7 is around a bit bigger than a penny, and I think the Libre is as big as a penny. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about the Dexcom G7 only today. And talking about the adhesive here, well, right now I'm using the patch around the adhesive as well, so it's not to make it more adhesive. So it's not just the Dexcom's own patch, but I'm adding your own patch. But this patch comes inside the box, so each box has its own small patch to add to make it more adhesive. Something about the patch, though, that I don't really like is that when you add the patch, it just makes it stronger and the adhesive is harder to actually come off. For example, it does come off when swimming, so you have to be careful about that. But when it does come off, it usually rips the entire CGM off with it. So that's something to be careful about, and that's happened to me multiple times where the adhesive, the second layer came off, so then it took off the entire CGM with it. So yeah, that's something to be careful about, and kind of a con that I don't like about it. But in general, I think the adhesive is good, except for some scenarios, and it does come off sometimes, especially when swimming. So it's not perfect, but I would say it's a pretty good adhesive, and it stays on pretty well most of the time. Another thing is accuracy. So I would say accuracy-wise, the G7 is pretty accurate. It's obviously going to be plus minus 15, 20 off to the CGM, and it could be to your real readings, and it could be even more off to the prick. But it is pretty accurate because obviously nothing is perfectly accurate to your real reading. Even the prick is not perfectly 100% accurate. So as far as that goes, I think it's pretty accurate. But yeah, it could be a bit off sometimes, and sometimes it's just completely off, and you have to calibrate it to make it go. But I think that's it hasn't happened that many times. It's not a big problem in my opinion, and yeah, it's pretty accurate. And going on to consistency of readings, this is where I think it's a bit more of a problem, as sometimes the Dexcom G7 goes every 5 minutes it's supposed to give you a reading, right? But then sometimes it doesn't give you a reading for a couple of sets of 5 minutes. It stops, or it's 5 minutes gives you a reading, 5 minutes doesn't give you a reading, and then kind of on and off sometimes for a while. And then sometimes it just doesn't give you a reading for larger amounts of periods of time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. In some cases, I even have to change the CGM because it doesn't give readings for too long. So yeah, I think this is a pretty big issue. And usually when it goes quite a while without not giving readings, it says sensor error. So this has happened quite a bit of times where it said sensor error, and then I've had to change the CGM because it wasn't giving readings. Just a couple days ago, I had to do this because it wasn't giving readings. So yeah, I think the consistency is a bit worse compared to the accuracy. Also, so one thing is the pairing with your phone. It's quite simple process pairing, and Dexcom G7 actually only takes 25 minutes to pair with your phone. Well, it depends, but usually it takes 25 minutes compared to like 2 hours on the G6. So that's quite a big upgrade right there. It's kind of convenient too. You can just put it on and then start getting readings in like 20 to 25 minutes. So that's a good thing. But sometimes it does not connect with your phone, or it does not connect easily with your phone. For example, I've had times where I pair it and it's like pairing, but it doesn't work. So I have to take it off, put on another one, and do it again. I don't know if it's a bad batch or something, but it's happened a couple times where in a back-to-back I've had to switch 3 or 4 CGMs just because it was not pairing to my phone. But a good strategy that I've read about recently, and I would recommend everyone to use, is to, when pairing, if you get a pairing, like pairing over and over and does not connect, I'd recommend you to grab like this when it's already applied to your arm or wherever your site is, and then reapply it sort of like this, or like kind of push it towards your CGM, because it would activate, because this is like bound by like magnets, and the activation is by like a magnetic signal. So if you apply the magnet to the CGM itself, it would reset the pairing process. And for me, whenever I've used it, it works. And if you don't have this, then you could just use a magnet and just put it close to your CGM, and it should work as well. So yeah, a magnet trick has worked ever since I've tried it. So I would recommend that tip for anyone who is having the same problem as me. And I've heard it's good amount of people, so yeah, that's a great thing. But something that makes up with the not pairing and the fact that sometimes it stopped working is the customer support, because Dexcom's customer support is actually really great in my opinion. Whenever the adhesive falls off, or whenever anything happens to CGM, even if it's your fault a bit, you can get a free one by just calling Dexcom support. So that's pretty awesome. You can just call them, and they'll just send you a free one. Then they won't really like ask anything like that much. Yeah, so you can really quickly get new batches. So like whenever my CGM gets fallen off for some reason or just stops working or something, we just call them, and then you can get a new one. So that's really great. However, I think for the adhesiveness or it falling off, if it's like your fault, then I think there's a limit to how many you can get per month or year. So yeah, that's not like unlimited, but I feel like that's to stop exploitation, so it makes sense. So in general, I think yeah, the Dexcom support is actually really solid for Dexcom. So I think that's a pretty darn big plus for the Dexcom in general, because you need to contact support probably a couple times since you have it. So in general, I think if you're deciding between like CGMs, I think the Dexcom G7 is like pretty great. It's pretty small, reliable, and it's good. And Dexcom support is good. Although like there are sensor errors and connectivity issues sometimes, I still feel like it's a pretty good CGM. And yeah, so that's my first video. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments, and thank you for watching.